Explanation of demand analysis and consumer equilibrium. 1. What is demand? Demand refers to how much of a product or service people are willing to buy at different prices during a certain period of time. Demand analysis studies the factors that affect this willingness to buy and how these factors influence the demand. 2. Key elements in demand analysis. Individual demand. This refers to the quantity of a product or service that a single person is willing to buy at different prices. Example: if the price of a chocolate bar is $1, you may decide to buy 2 bars. If the price increases to $2, you may only buy 1 bar. Your individual demand depends on the price and your preferences. Market demand. This is the total demand for a product or service in the entire market, which is the sum of individual demands from all consumers. Example: if everyone else is also buying fewer chocolate bars as the price increases, the overall market demand will decrease. Demand function. This is a mathematical expression that shows the relationship between the price of a product and the quantity demanded. Example: the demand function can show that when the price of a good rises, the quantity demanded falls, usually represented as Q equals Fp, where Q is quantity demanded and P is price. Demand distinctions. Demand can be affected by various factors beyond just price, such as consumer income, preferences, or the price of related goods, substitutes and complements. Elasticity of demand. This measures how sensitive the quantity demanded is to changes in price. Example: if a small increase in the price of a product causes a large drop in quantity demanded, we say the demand is elastic. If the quantity demanded changes little with price changes, we say the demand is inelastic. 3. Why demand analysis is important. Demand analysis helps producers modify production. Understanding demand patterns helps producers adjust their production to match consumer needs. Sales forecasting. Accurate demand analysis allows businesses to predict how much of a product they will sell. Resource allocation. Producers can adjust how they allocate resources, e.g., materials, labor, to optimize production according to demand. For key takeaways, demand is influenced by factors like price, consumer preferences, and income. Understanding demand helps businesses predict sales and adjust their production to match consumer needs. Elasticity measures how much demand changes with price fluctuations. By understanding these basic concepts, you can grasp how businesses make decisions about what to produce and how much to charge based on demand. Meaning and definition of demand. 1. What is demand? Demand refers to a consumer's desire to buy goods or services, but with the added condition that they have the ability to pay for it at different prices during a specific time period. In other words, it's not just about wanting something, it's about having the money to buy it. Example: if you are hungry and desire a sandwich but don't have money to buy it, that is not considered demand. For it to be demand, you need both the desire, hunger, and the ability to pay, money. 2. Key elements of effective demand. Effective demand requires 3 things. Desire, the wish or want for a product or service. Means to purchase, having the money or ability to buy it. Willingness to use those means. You are ready to spend your money to buy it. For instance, you might desire a smartphone, but if you don't have the money to buy it, your desire alone doesn't count as demand. Once you have both the money and the willingness to buy it, that becomes effective demand. Different views on demand. Several economists have defined demand in their own ways. Benham. Demand is the quantity of a good or service that will be bought at a specific price within a certain period of time. Example: if the price of coffee is $2 per cup, demand would be the amount of coffee people will buy at that price during a day. Bobber. Demand refers to the various quantities of a product that consumers will buy at different prices within a specific time frame. Example: at a price of $2 per cup, people may buy 100 cups. At $3 per cup, they may only buy 70 cups. The different amounts at different prices show demand. G. Eltittle. Demand is the amount of a product that will be bought at a specific price per unit of time. Example: if the price is fixed at $5 for a loaf of bread, demand is the number of loaves people will buy in 1 month. For demand curve. The demand curve is a graphical representation that shows how the quantity demanded changes at different prices. It combines the amount of a product consumers are willing to buy at various prices. Example: if the price of a product decreases, the demand usually increases. People are more willing to buy at lower prices. The demand curve will show this relationship, with the price on the vertical axis and the quantity demanded on the horizontal axis. Key takeaways. Demand isn't just about desire. It requires both the ability and willingness to pay. Effective demand consists of three elements: desire, means to purchase, and willingness to use those means. Shows how demand changes at different prices, and it helps businesses understand how price affects their sales. Understanding these basics helps explain how businesses and consumers interact in the marketplace based on their ability to buy and the prices of products. Objectives of demand analysis. 1. What is demand analysis? Demand analysis is the study of how much of a product or service consumers are willing to buy at different prices over time. It helps businesses understand future needs and plan accordingly. 2. Key objectives of demand analysis. 1. Demand forecasting. What it means: predicting how much of a product will be needed in the future based on past and current buying trends. Example: a company that sells winter jackets might look at sales data from the last few winters to predict how many jackets will be needed next winter. 2. Production planning. What it means: estimating the future demand helps businesses plan how much to produce. Without accurate demand estimation, companies might produce too much or too little. Example: if a company predicts that demand for smartphones will increase in the holiday season, it will plan to increase production to meet that demand. Without this knowledge, they might face overproduction, leading to waste, or underproduction, leading to lost sales. 3. Sales forecasting. What it means: estimating future sales helps businesses plan their marketing and sales efforts. Example: if demand is expected to rise, a company might spend more on advertising or offer discounts to boost sales. 4. Control of business. What it means: proper demand analysis helps businesses control their costs and profits by setting budgets based on estimated future demand and sales. Example: if a company expects strong demand, it can budget for higher production costs and plan for higher revenue. If demand is expected to decrease, the company may cut costs. 5. Inventory control. What it means: demand analysis helps companies manage their inventory by predicting what they will need in the future, e.g., raw materials, finished products. Example: if a toy company forecasts high demand for a particular toy during the holiday season, it can stock up on raw materials and finished toys to avoid shortages. 3. Key takeaways. Demand forecasting helps predict future demand. Production planning is based on demand estimates to avoid overproduction or underproduction. Sales forecasting helps businesses plan marketing and advertising. Business control requires understanding demand to manage costs and profits effectively. Inventory control ensures businesses have the right amount of goods at the right time based on predicted demand. These objectives guide businesses in making decisions about how much to produce, sell, and stock, leading to better resource management and profitability. Types of demand. 1. Individual and market demand. Individual demand refers to how much of a product an individual consumer is willing to buy at a given price at a specific time. Example: if a person is willing to buy 2 shirts at $20 each, that's individual demand. This is the sum of all individual demands for a product in a given market. Example: if 100 people are willing to buy 2 shirts each at $20, the total market demand would be 200 shirts. 2. Demand for firms' products and industries' products. Firms' product demand. The demand for the product produced by a single company. Example: if a company sells 500 units of a product, that's the demand for the firm's product. Industries' product demand. This refers to the total demand for a product produced by all firms in an industry. Example: the total demand for smartphones by all companies in the industry. 3. Autonomous and derived demand. Autonomous demand. This is demand that is independent and does not rely on the demand for other goods. Example: The demand for basic needs like food or shelter, which is based on personal needs. Derived demand. This is demand for a good that arises because of the demand for another related good. Example: the demand for petrol increases because of the demand for cars, related goods. Herefore, demand for durable and non-durable goods. Durable goods. These are products that last a long time and can be used repeatedly. Example: cars, refrigerators, furniture. Non-durable goods. These are products that are used up quickly or can only be used once. Example: food items, paper, pens. 5. Short-term and long-term demand. Short-term demand refers to the demand for products that are used in the short term. Example: demand for umbrellas during the rainy season. Long-term demand refers to the demand for products that are used over a longer period of time. Example: demand for cars, houses, or machinery. 6. Joint demand and composite demand. Joint demand. This occurs when two or more products are demanded together to satisfy a single need. Example: demand for cars and petrol, or pens and ink. Composite demand. This occurs when a single product is demanded for multiple uses. Example: steel is demanded for making cars, utensils, and machinery. 7. Direct and indirect demand. Direct demand. This is the demand for goods that are used directly by consumers for final consumption. Example: demand for clothes, food, or motorcycles. Indirect demand. This is the demand for goods used in the production of other goods. Example: demand for raw materials like steel to make cars. Total market and market segment demand. Total market demand. This refers to the total demand for a product in the entire market. Example: demand for Vadalal ice cream across India. Market segment demand. This refers to demand from a specific group or segment within the market. Example: demand for Vadalal ice cream in Rajasthan or among women. Summary of types of demand. Individual versus market demand. Individual is for a single person. Market is the sum of individual demands. Firm's product versus industry's product demand. Firm's demand is for one company's product. Industry's demand is for all companies in the industry. Autonomous versus derived demand. Autonomous is independent. Derived depends on another product's demand. Durable versus non-durable goods. Durable lasts long. Non-durable is consumed quickly. Short-term versus long-term demand. Short-term is for immediate needs. Long-term is for longer-lasting products. Joint versus composite demand. Joint is for products used together. Composite is for a product used in multiple ways. Direct versus indirect demand. Direct is for final consumption. Indirect is for producing other goods. Total market versus market segment demand. Total market is for the whole market. Market segment is for specific groups. These classifications help businesses understand different types of demand they might face, helping them to plan production, marketing, and sales strategies more effectively. Demand function. A demand function is a mathematical way to express how the demand for a product changes in relation to different factors that affect it, such as the product's price, consumer income, or preferences. Types of demand functions. 1. Individual demand function. This shows how much of a product an individual consumer will buy at different prices, with other factors, like income and preferences, kept constant. Formula: D equals FP. Here, D is the demand, and P is the price. Example: if you want to buy coffee, your individual demand might be higher when the price is low, e.g. $2 for a cup, and lower when the price is high, e.g. $5 for a cup. 2. Market demand function. This is the total demand from all consumers in the market for a product. It's the sum of individual demands at different prices, considering multiple factors like income, preferences, and the price of related goods, substitutes or complements. Formula: dx equals f of px pr m t a u. dx equals quantity demanded for commodity x. Px equals price of commodity x. Pr is the price of related goods, substitutes and complements. M equals consumer's income. Consumers' tastes and preferences. A equals advertising effects. U, any unknown variables. Example: if the price of tea goes up, px, and the consumer's income increases m, the demand for tea, dx, might change. If there's an advertisement A promoting a new flavor, it could increase demand as well. Key points to remember. Individual demand shows a consumer's demand at different prices. Market demand is the total demand from all consumers in the market, considering all relevant factors. The demand function helps businesses understand how changes in price, income, consumer preferences, and related goods prices affect demand. Why it's important. Understanding the demand function helps businesses make decisions about production, pricing, advertising, and overall market strategy. Knowing how demand changes with different factors is crucial for long-term planning and short-term operational decisions. Law of demand. The law of demand explains how the quantity of a product demanded by consumers changes when its price changes. Definition: the law of demand states that there is an inverse relationship between the price of a commodity and the quantity demanded, keeping all other factors constant. If the price of a product increases, the quantity demanded will decrease. If the price of a product decreases, the quantity demanded will increase. Example: imagine the price of a cup of coffee increases from $2 to $5. As a result, fewer people will want to buy it because it's more expensive. Hence, the quantity demanded decreases. Now, if the price of coffee decreases from $5 to $2, more people will want to buy it because it's cheaper. Hence, the quantity demanded increases. Key points to remember. 1. Inverse relationship. When prices go up, demand goes down. When prices go down, demand goes up. 2. Marshall's definition. As prices fall, the quantity demanded rises. As prices rise, the quantity demanded falls. Ceteris paribus. This law assumes that all other factors, such as income, preferences, etc., remain constant when observing changes in demand due to price changes. Why it's important. Understanding the law of demand helps businesses set prices and predict how changes in price will impact their sales. It's a key concept for making pricing decisions and understanding consumer behavior. Assumptions of the law of demand. The law of demand works under certain assumptions. These assumptions simplify the relationship between price and quantity demanded, allowing us to focus on how price changes affect demand. Key assumptions. 1. Constant income level. It is assumed that the buyer's income remains the same. If a person's income increases, they might be willing to buy more, even if prices stay the same. If you get a raise at work, you might still buy the same number of items even if their prices don't change. 2. No change in tastes or preferences. The buyer's preferences remain constant. If people suddenly prefer a product more, the demand could increase, even without a price change. Example: if suddenly everyone starts liking a certain type of smartphone, demand for that phone will increase, even if the price stays the same. 3. Prices of related goods remain constant. The prices of substitute or complementary goods do not change. For example, if the price of tea rises, people may switch to coffee, a substitute, increasing the demand for coffee. Example: if the price of Pepsi rises, demand for Coke, a substitute, might increase. 4. No new substitutes. It is assumed that no new products enter the market that could replace the current product. If a new product is introduced, it might affect the demand for the existing product. Example: if a new type of energy drink is introduced, the demand for existing brands might fall. 5. No expectation of future price changes. Consumers do not expect the price of the product to rise in the future. If they expect prices to rise later, they might buy more now, even if the current price hasn't changed. Example: if people believe the price of petrol will rise next week, they might fill their tanks today, increasing current demand. Key points to remember. The law of demand assumes constant income, tastes, prices of related goods, no new substitutes, and no future price expectations. If any of these assumptions change, the law of demand may not hold true, and demand can behave differently. These assumptions help keep the focus on the relationship between price and demand, without other factors influencing the outcome. Demand schedule and its types. A demand schedule is a table or chart that shows the relationship between the price of a commodity and the quantity demanded. It illustrates the inverse relationship between price and demand. As price goes up, the quantity demanded typically goes down, and vice versa. Key concept: price is the independent variable, and quantity demanded is the dependent variable in the demand schedule. Types of demand schedules. 1. Individual demand schedule. This shows the quantity of a commodity an individual consumer is willing to buy at different prices. Example: if a household buys 500 grams of oranges at 20 per kilograms, but when the price drops to 16 per kilograms, the household buys 700 grams. The demand increases as price decreases. Example demand schedule for oranges, individual, price per key, oranges demanded, 20.50, 16.70, 13, 2.00, 11, 2.60, 8, 3, 5, 7, 6, 60. As the price of oranges decreases, the quantity demanded increases, which is consistent with the law of demand. 2. Market demand schedule. This is the sum of the individual demands of all consumers in the market at each price level. It shows the total quantity demanded by all consumers at different prices. Example market demand schedule for oranges. Price per candid by household 1 kilogram, QD demanded by household 2 market demand at different prices. 20, 2, 4, 18, 3, 4, 7, 16, 5, 5, 10, 14, 7, 15, 20, 12, 9, 17, 26, 10, 11, 21, 32, 8, 13, 12, 25, 6, 17, 15, 32. In this example, as the price of oranges decreases, both households increase their demand, leading to a higher total market demand. This shows the sum of individual demands at each price point. Hash are key points to remember. Demand schedule shows how quantity demanded changes as price changes. Individual demand schedule reflects the demand of one consumer. Market demand schedule is the total of all individual demands in the market. Inverse relationship. As the price decreases, the quantity demanded generally increases, following the law of demand. Understanding these schedules helps managers predict how price changes will affect the total demand for a product and make better pricing decisions. Curve and its types. A demand curve is a graphical representation of the relationship between price and quantity demanded. It is drawn using data from a demand schedule and shows how demand changes when price changes. Key concept: price is plotted on the y-axis, vertical. Quantity demanded is plotted on the x-axis, horizontal. The demand curve slopes downward from left to right, showing the inverse relationship between price and demand. Types of demand curves. 1. Individual demand curve shows how much of a commodity one individual will buy at different prices. It is based on the individual demand schedule. Example: suppose a person buys 2 units of a product when the price is 20 unit. If the price drops to 16 unit, they buy 3 units. If the price further drops to 10 unit, they buy 5 units. Graph interpretation. Higher price, lower demand. Lower price, higher demand. The curve slopes downward, negative slope. Hat 2, market demand curve, represents the total quantity demanded by all consumers at different prices. It is based on the market demand schedule, sum of all individual demand schedules. Example: if at 10th unit, total demand in the market is 100 units, but when the price falls to 8th unit, total demand rises to 200 units, and at 6th unit, demand increases to 400 units. Graph interpretation. Each point on the graph shows total market demand at a specific price. Like the individual demand curve, it also slopes downward, inverse relation between price and demand. Key points to remember. Demand curve, graphical representation of demand schedule. Inverse relationship, as price decreases, demand increases. Types: individual demand curve, one person, and market demand curve, all consumers. Both curves slope downward due to the law of demand. Understanding the demand curve helps businesses set optimal prices. And curves slope downwards. The demand curve slopes downward because when the price of a commodity decreases, its demand increases. This happens due to several reasons. 1. Income effect. When prices fall, people can buy more of the same product with the same amount of money. Example: if a person's budget for apples is 100 and apples cost 20 each, they can buy 5 apples. If the price drops to 10 per apple, they can now buy 10 apples with the same 100. Lower price, more purchasing power, higher demand. Hash 2, substitution effect. If the price of a product decreases, people will switch from similar expensive products to the cheaper one. Example, if the price of Pepsi falls while Coca-Cola remains expensive, many Coca-Cola buyers will shift to Pepsi. Cheaper product, more buyers, higher demand. 3. New consumers entering the market. When the price drops, people who couldn't afford the product earlier can now buy it. Example, a luxury car brand reduces prices, making it affordable for middle-class buyers. Lower price, more buyers, higher demand. 4. Law of diminishing marginal utility. As people buy more of the same product, the additional satisfaction, utility, from each extra unit decreases. Example, the first slice of pizza is very enjoyable, but by the 5th slice, the enjoyment is much lower. Since people only buy more when the price falls, demand increases as price decreases. 5. Price effect. When price drops, more people start buying the product, increasing demand. But when price increases, some people stop buying or reduce consumption, decreasing demand. Example, if the price of Netflix subscription drops, more people subscribe. If the price increases, some may cancel. 6. Different income groups. Most people have limited incomes, so they buy more when prices fall. Rich people buy the same quantity regardless of price, but the majority, middle and lower income groups, influence the demand curve. Example, if rice prices drop, more people can afford to buy larger quantities. Different uses of a product. Some products can be used in multiple ways. If the price increases, people use it only for necessary purposes. If the price decreases, people use it for additional purposes. Example, if the price of milk falls, people buy more to make sweets, shakes, and yogurt. 8. Tendency to satisfy unfulfilled wants. When a product becomes cheaper, people tend to buy it to fulfill their desires. Example, if the price of an expensive perfume drops, people who wanted to buy it earlier but couldn't afford it will now purchase it. Key takeaways. Demand curve slopes downward due to the inverse relationship between price and demand. Lower price, higher demand. More buyers, more usage, more affordability. Higher price, lower demand, less purchasing power, fewer buyers. Income effect, substitution effect, price effect, and diminishing marginal utility are the main reasons. Understanding these concepts helps businesses decide pricing strategies to maximize sales and revenue. To the law of demand. The law of demand states that when the price of a product increases, its demand decreases, and vice versa. However, in some cases, this law does not apply. These are called exceptions to the law of demand. 1. Conspicuous goods, prestige goods. Some consumers buy expensive goods to show off their status. If the price decreases, they feel the product is less prestigious and may stop buying it. Example, gold, diamonds, luxury cars. Rich people often buy them more when prices are high. 2. Giffen goods, inferior goods. Discovered by economist Sir Robert Giffen, these are staple foods that poor people rely on. When prices rise, they cannot afford better food, like meat, and end up buying more of the cheaper food. Example, bread, rice, potatoes. Poor people may buy more bread when its price rises because they cannot afford meat anymore. 3. Necessities of life. Essential goods like food, clothes, medicines do not follow the law of demand. Even if prices rise, people still buy them because they are needed for survival. Example, people still buy medicine even if it becomes expensive. 4. Conspicuous necessities. Some goods become necessary due to social habits, even if their prices increase. Example, refrigerators, air conditioners, cooking gas. Even if prices rise, people still buy them because they are part of daily life. 5. Future price expectations. When people expect prices to rise in the future, they buy more now, increasing demand. Example, before a petrol price hike, people rush to fill their tanks. 6. Impulsive purchases. Sometimes, people buy things without thinking about price or necessity. Example, buying expensive gadgets or branded clothes just because they look attractive. 7. Ignorance effect. Some consumers lack knowledge about actual prices and may buy at a higher price, thinking it's better. Example, a person buys an expensive but low-quality phone, assuming higher price equals better quality. #8. Outdated goods and seasonal goods. Old technology or seasonal products may not follow the law of demand. Example, keypad phones became outdated when touchscreen phones arrived, even at lower prices. Fans may not sell well in winter, even if prices drop. Key takeaways. Law of demand has exceptions. In some cases, higher prices increase demand. Prestige goods, necessities, and impulsive purchases are common exceptions. Future price expectations and ignorance can also break the law of demand. Seasonal and outdated goods may not sell even at lower prices. These exceptions help businesses and policymakers understand consumer behavior better. #variations in demand, movement versus shift. In economics, demand can change in two ways. 1. Movement along the demand curve, change in quantity demanded. 2. Shift of the demand curve, change in demand. Let's break it down with simple explanations and examples. 1. Movement along the demand curve, change in quantity demanded. This happens only due to a change in price of the product. The demand curve does not shift, but the demand moves up or down on the same curve. 2 types. Extension in demand. When price falls, demand increases. Contraction in demand. When price rises, demand decreases. Example. If mangoes cost 100 kilogram, people buy less. If the price drops to 50 kilogram, more people buy mangoes. This is movement along the demand curve. 2. Shift of the demand curve, change in demand. This happens when factors other than price change, such as income levels. If income increases, people buy more even at the same price. Tastes and preferences. If a product becomes trendy, demand increases. Price of related goods. If the price of tea increases, people may buy more coffee instead. The demand curve shifts completely. Right equals increase, left equals decrease. Example, if the government raises salaries, people may buy more cars, even if car prices stay the same. This is a rightward shift in the demand curve. If people start drinking less tea due to health reasons, demand for tea falls, leftward shift. Key takeaways. Change in quantity demanded equals movement along the demand curve due to price change. Change in demand equals shift of the entire curve due to income, preferences, or related goods. Movement happens on the same curve, while shifts create a new demand curve. This concept helps businesses understand whether their sales are affected by price changes or other external factors. Movement along the demand curve, extension and contraction. The movement along the demand curve happens only due to a change in price, while keeping all other factors the same. It has 2 types. 1. Extension of demand. When price falls, demand increases. 2. Contraction of demand. When price rises, demand decreases. 1. Extension of demand. More demand at lower prices. When the price of a product decreases, people buy more of it. This is called extension of demand, shown by a downward movement on the demand curve. Example, if movie tickets cost $500, fewer people go to the cinema. If the price drops to $300, more people start going. This increase in demand due to price reduction is extension of demand. Graph movement. Moving down the demand curve from point A to point B, higher quantity at a lower price. Contraction of demand, less demand at higher prices. When the price of a product increases, people buy less of it. This is called contraction of demand, shown by an upward movement on the demand curve. Example, if petrol costs 100 per liter, people drive a lot. If the price rises to 150 per liter, many people will reduce driving or use public transport. This reduction in demand due to price increase is contraction of demand. Graph movement, moving up the demand curve from point B to point A, lower quantity at a higher price. Key takeaways. Extension of demand, demand and increases when price falls. Contraction of demand equals demand decreases when price rises. This is a movement along the demand curve, not a shift in demand. Understanding this helps businesses decide how pricing affects customer demand. Shift in demand curve, increase and decrease in demand. A shift in the demand curve happens when demand changes due to non-price factors like income, consumer preferences, or prices of related goods. This shift can be rightward, increase in demand, or leftward, decrease in demand. 1. Increase in demand, rightward shift in demand curve. An increase in demand means that at the same price, people are willing to buy more of the product. Causes of increase in demand: higher income, people can afford more. Popular trends, a product becomes fashionable. Price of substitutes increases. Tea is costly, so more people buy coffee. Price of complements decreases. Cheaper cars, more demand for petrol. Example 1. Same price, more demand. A burger costs 50 and earlier 100 people bought it. Now, due to higher income, 200 people buy it, even though the price is still 50. This shifts the demand curve rightward, D1. Example 2. Higher price, same demand. If a brand becomes a trend, people still buy it even when the price rises. Example, iPhones. Even when the price increases, demand remains stable because of strong brand loyalty. 2. Decrease in demand. Leftward shift in demand curve. A decrease in demand means that at the same price, people are willing to buy less of the product. Causes of decrease in demand: lower income, people have less money to spend. Change in taste, a product goes out of fashion. Price of substitutes decreases, tea gets cheaper, so fewer people buy coffee. Price of complements increases, cars become expensive, so petrol demand drops. Example 1. Same price, less demand. A soft drink costs 30 and earlier 100 people bought it. Due to health concerns, only 50 people buy it, even though the price is still 30. The demand curve shifts leftward, D1. Example 2. Lower price, same demand. If a product becomes unpopular, even a lower price doesn't increase sales. Example, DVD players. Even if the price drops, demand remains low because people prefer streaming services. Key differences: increase in demand versus expansion of demand. Increase in demand, shift in demand curve. Expansion of demand, movement down the same curve. Definition: more demand at the same price. More demand because price fell. Rightward shift, movement down. Reason: change in non-price factors, income, trends, substitutes, etc. Price decrease is the only reason. Example: more people buy electric cars due to government subsidies. More people buy petrol cars because petrol price drops. Key takeaways: increase in demand, rightward shift due to non-price factors. Decrease in demand, leftward shift due to non-price factors. Expansion and contraction of demand happens only due to price change. This understanding helps businesses plan pricing, marketing, and production based on market trends. Between contraction of demand and decrease in demand. Both terms refer to a reduction in demand, but they occur due to different reasons. How 1. Contraction of demand, movement along the curve, happens only when price increases. Other factors, income, preferences, substitutes, etc., remain unchanged, seen as an upward movement along the same demand curve. Example: if pizza price rises from 200 to 300 des, fewer people buy it, contraction of demand. 2. Decrease in demand, shift of the demand curve, happens due to factors other than price, e.g. lower income, new substitutes, changing tastes. Demand curve shifts leftward because people buy less even if the price remains the same. Example: if people switch to healthy eating, demand for pizza drops even if the price is still 200. Key differences: contraction versus decrease in demand. Factor: contraction of demand, decrease in demand. Even if the price, same demand curves. Cause: increase in price, change in non-price factors, income, preference, substitutes. Effect on demand curve: movement upwards along the same demand curve. Example: price of pizza rises, fewer buyers. More people prefer salads, fewer buy pizza. Difference between increase in demand and decrease in demand. Increase in demand. Consumers buy more at the same price, demand curve shifts right. Decrease in demand. Consumers buy less at the same price, demand curve shifts left. Example: increase in demand, new gym trend, more people buy protein shakes at 100. Decrease in demand, new health risks, fewer people buy soft drinks at 50. Key takeaways: contraction of demand, due to price increase, movement up the same curve. Decrease in demand, due to non-price factors, demand curve shifts left. Increase in demand, more purchases at same price, demand curve shifts right. This helps businesses analyze demand changes and make better pricing and marketing decisions. Elasticity of demand, understanding how demand changes with price. 1. What is elasticity of demand? Elasticity of demand measures how much the quantity demanded of a product changes when its price or other factors change. If demand changes a lot when price changes, it is elastic. If demand changes very little when price changes, it is inelastic. 2. Elastic versus inelastic goods. Elastic goods, consumers can easily switch to substitutes, so demand changes significantly. Example: if the price of Pepsi increases, people may buy Coke instead. Inelastic goods, consumers cannot easily find substitutes, so demand remains stable even if price rises. Example: if the price of salt or medicine increases, people will still buy it. 3. Formula for elasticity of demand. Elasticity of demand is calculated as elasticity equals % change in quantity demanded, change in price. If the result is greater than 1, demand is elastic, high response to price. If the result is less than 1, demand is inelastic, low response to price. If the result is exactly 1, demand is unitary elastic, proportional response to price. Key takeaways: elastic demand, demand changes a lot with price, luxuries, non-essential goods. Inelastic demand, demand changes very little with price, necessities, essentials. Businesses use elasticity to decide pricing strategies and maximize revenue. Would you like a breakdown of different types of elasticity, like income or cross-elasticity? Of elasticity of demand in managerial decision-making. Elasticity of demand plays a crucial role in how businesses, governments, and producers make decisions about pricing, production, taxes, and trade. Here's a simple breakdown of its role. 1. Determining price policy. Businesses use elasticity to decide pricing strategies. Elastic demand: if prices fall, demand increases significantly. So, lowering prices could increase overall sales and profits. Inelastic demand: if prices fall, demand doesn't increase much. Here, businesses might keep prices high to maximize profit. Example: a company selling a luxury car in elastic demand will likely keep the price high, while a business selling smartphone elastic demand might reduce prices to boost sales. 2. Price discrimination. Producers can charge different prices for the same product in different markets based on how sensitive consumers are to price elasticity. Elastic demand: lower prices to attract more customers. Inelastic demand: higher prices because consumers are less sensitive to price changes. Example: airlines charge higher prices for business class tickets, inelastic demand, and lower prices for economy class, elastic demand. Shifting the tax burden. Elasticity helps determine who will bear the burden of a tax. If demand is inelastic, businesses can pass the tax on to consumers by raising prices. If demand is elastic, consumers will reduce their purchases, so the producer may bear more of the tax burden. Example: gasoline has inelastic demand, so a government can tax it heavily without significantly reducing sales. 4. Taxation and subsidy policy. Inelastic demand: government can impose higher taxes to increase revenue. Elastic demand: higher taxes may reduce sales and revenue, so governments may prefer subsidies. Cigarettes, inelastic, are taxed more, while certain essential goods may receive subsidies if their demand is elastic. Now 5. Importance in international trade. Elasticity helps governments determine the success of trade policies. For exports and imports, if demand is elastic, devaluation, lowering currency value, may help increase exports. Example, if a country devalues its currency and the demand for its products is elastic, exports will increase. 6.6. Factor pricing. If the demand for a factor of production, like labor, is elastic, workers can negotiate for higher wages. Elastic demand for labor, workers can push for higher wages. Inelastic demand for labor, fewer job opportunities and wage growth. Highly specialized workers, like software engineers, have more bargaining power than general laborers. 7. Pricing of joint supply products. For products that are made together, joint supply, elasticity of demand influences their price. If demand for one product is inelastic, its price will be set higher. If demand for the other is elastic, its price will be set lower. Example, in the case of beef and leather, the price of leather may be higher because beef has inelastic demand. 8. Employment decisions. The use of machines and technology can affect labor demand. If demand for a product is elastic, using machines may not reduce labor demand because the business might need to produce more to meet demand. Example, if a company uses machines to increase production of a popular product with elastic demand, they may still hire more workers to keep up. 9. Public utilities. For public services like water, electricity, or transportation, demand is usually inelastic. Prices for these services are set knowing that consumers won't reduce usage much, even if prices increase. Example, electricity prices tend to rise even if consumers don't reduce their consumption much because demand is inelastic. 10. Output decisions. Businesses use elasticity to decide how much of a product to produce. Understanding how price changes will affect demand helps businesses optimize their production. Example, a smartphone company may increase production if demand is highly elastic and prices are lowered. Key takeaways. Elastic demand, price sensitive, so businesses should lower prices to increase sales. Inelastic demand, price insensitive, so businesses can charge higher prices without losing customers. Elasticity helps businesses make decisions on pricing, taxation, trade, employment, and production. Understanding elasticity allows businesses and governments to make informed decisions to maximize revenue and economic efficiency. Elasticity of demand. Elasticity of demand helps us understand how the quantity demanded of a product changes when certain factors change, like the price, consumer income, or advertising efforts. Here are the main types. 1. Price elasticity of demand. Definition. Price elasticity of demand measures how the quantity demanded of a product changes when its price changes. If price increases and demand decreases a lot, we say the demand is elastic. If price increases and demand doesn't change much, we say the demand is inelastic. Example, elastic demand. If the price of a soda increases by 10% and people stop buying it or switch to a cheaper alternative, the demand is elastic. Inelastic demand. If the price of insulin increases and people still buy nearly the same amount because they need it, the demand is inelastic. 2. Cross-elasticity of demand. Definition. Cross-elasticity of demand measures how the quantity demanded of one product changes when the price of another product changes. This is useful for understanding the relationship between substitute and complementary goods. Substitute goods. When the price of one product increases, the demand for its substitute increases. Positive XED. Complementary goods. When the price of one product increases, the demand for its complement decreases. Negative XED. Example, substitutes. If the price of tea increases, the demand for coffee, a substitute, may increase. Complements. If the price of printers rises, the demand for printer ink, a complement, may decrease. 3. Income elasticity of demand. Definition. Income elasticity of demand measures how the quantity demanded of a product changes when consumer income changes. Normal goods. Demand increases as income increases. Positive YED. Inferior goods. Demand decreases as income increases. Negative YED. Example, normal goods. As people get higher salaries, they may buy more cars. Inferior goods, as people earn more, they might buy fewer cheap instant noodles and opt for higher quality food. Hash 4. Advertising and promotional elasticity of demand. Definition. This type of elasticity measures how the demand for a product changes in response to changes in advertising or promotional efforts. If advertising significantly increases demand, we say the demand is elastic to advertising. If advertising doesn't significantly affect demand, the demand is inelastic to advertising. Example: elastic. A well-executed TV ad for a new smartphone leads to a significant increase in sales. Inelastic. No matter how much a store advertises, the demand for a basic necessity, like salt, doesn't change much. Key points to remember. Price elasticity of demand focuses on price changes. Cross-elasticity of demand, XED, focuses on how related goods prices affect each other. Income elasticity of demand focuses on how consumer income affects demand. Advertising elasticity of demand focuses on how advertising affects demand. Understanding these types helps businesses make informed decisions on pricing, marketing, and product strategies. Elasticity of demand, PE. Price elasticity of demand, PD, measures how much the quantity demanded of a good changes when its price changes. This concept helps us understand the relationship between price changes and demand changes for a product, while considering the consumer's income, preferences, and prices of other goods. What is price elasticity of demand? Definition. Price elasticity of demand refers to how sensitive or responsive the quantity demanded of a product is to changes in its price. If the price of a product changes, how much more or less will people buy the product? This is what helps us measure. Formula for price elasticity of demand. There are different ways to express the formula, but they all follow the same idea. Formula. Text, price elasticity of demand, E. Frac text, percentage change in quantity demanded, text percentage change in price. Or in simpler terms, eta equals frac delta Q times frac delta P, where 9 in delta Q equals change in quantity demanded, Q equals original quantity demanded, delta P equals change in price, P equals original price. This formula compares how much the quantity demanded changes in response to a price change. Interpreting price elasticity of demand. Elastic demand, E01/1. If the price increases or decreases and the quantity demanded changes significantly, the demand is considered elastic. In simple terms, people are very responsive to price changes. Example: if the price of a soft drink increases by 10% and people buy much less, then the demand for soft drinks is elastic. Inelastic demand, E1. If the price increases or decreases and the quantity demanded doesn't change much, the demand is considered inelastic. People are not very responsive to price changes. Example: if the price of life-saving medicine increases by 10%, but people still buy almost the same amount, the demand for this medicine is inelastic. Unitary elastic demand, E=1. If the percentage change in demand is exactly the same as the percentage change in price, the demand is said to be unitary elastic. Example: if the price of a movie ticket increases by 5% and the number of tickets sold decreases by 5%, the demand is unitary elastic. Key points to remember. Elastic demand means a big change in quantity when price changes, sensitive to price. Inelastic demand means a small change in quantity when price changes, insensitive to price. The formula for PD compares the percentage change in quantity demanded to the percentage change in price. Understanding PD helps businesses set pricing strategies, knowing how price changes will impact sales. This concept is crucial for businesses to make decisions on pricing and predicting how their customers will react to price adjustments. Price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand can be classified into 5 main types or degrees. These types describe how the quantity demanded of a product changes in response to price changes. Let's explore each of them with simple examples. 1. Perfectly elastic demand equals C. Definition. Perfectly elastic demand means that if the price changes even a little, the quantity demanded changes drastically, either increasing or decreasing infinitely. Example: imagine a product where customers are willing to buy as much as they want at a specific price. But if the price rises even by a tiny amount, they will stop buying it entirely. The demand curve is horizontal, flat, at that price level. Visual, a horizontal line at price P, constant, showing that quantity demanded changes infinitely as price changes even slightly. Perfectly inelastic demand, E equals 0. Definition: perfectly inelastic demand means that no matter how much the price changes, increase or decrease, the quantity demanded stays the same. Example: consider essential medicines like life-saving drugs. If the price of the medicine increases or decreases, the quantity demanded doesn't change because people still need it no matter the cost. Visual, a vertical line showing that no matter the price, the quantity remains unchanged. Scenario 3. Unitary elastic demand, E equals 1 definition. Unitary elastic demand means the percentage change in quantity demanded is exactly equal to the percentage change in price. This results in no change in total expenditure, price quantity. Example: if the price of a product increases from 20 to 40, a 100% increase, and the quantity demanded decreases from 200 units to 100 units, also a 50% decrease, total expenditure remains the same. This means the demand is unitary elastic. Visual, a rectangular hyperbola showing that the price and quantity changes offset each other, maintaining total expenditure. Elastic demand, E1, definition. Elastic demand means that the percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than the percentage change in price. In simple terms, consumers are very responsive to price changes. Example: if the price of a product increases from 20 to 40, a 100% increase, and the quantity demanded decreases from 200 to 80 units, a 60% decrease, the demand is elastic because the quantity changes more than the price. Visual, a demand curve that is flatter, showing a large change in quantity relative to the price change. Important point: when demand is elastic, price and total revenue or total expenditure are inversely related. If price goes up, revenue goes down, and vice versa. Inelastic demand. Definition: inelastic demand means the percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in price. Consumers are less responsive to price changes. Example: if the price of a product increases from 20 to 40, and the quantity demanded only decreases from 200 units to 150 units, a 25% decrease, the demand is inelastic because the quantity change is smaller than the price change. Visual, a steeper demand curve, showing that the quantity demanded changes less than the price change. Important point: when demand is inelastic, price and total revenue are directly related. If price increases, total revenue increases, and vice versa. Key points to remember. 1. Perfectly elastic demand, E equals set. Even a small price change causes an infinite change in quantity demanded. 2. Perfectly inelastic demand, equals 0. Price changes have no effect on the quantity demanded. 3. Unitary elastic demand equals 1. The change in quantity demanded equals the change in price, so total expenditure remains unchanged. 4. Elastic demand, E1. Consumers are highly responsive to price changes. Price and total revenue are inversely related. 5. Inelastic demand, E1. Consumers are less responsive to price changes. Price and total revenue are directly related. By understanding these types of elasticity, businesses can make informed pricing decisions, anticipating how their customers will react to price changes. Measure of elasticity. Elasticity measures how much the quantity demanded of a good changes when its price changes. The textbook provides numerical values for different types of elasticity, which describe how sensitive consumers are to price changes. Let's break it down. 1. Zero elasticity. Perfectly inelastic demand. Explanation: when demand is perfectly inelastic, a change in price has no effect on the quantity demanded. No matter how much the price increases or decreases, consumers will buy the same amount of the product. Example: life-saving medicine, where people will buy the same quantity even if the price rises or falls. Elasticity. 2. Elasticity between 0 and 1, inelastic demand. Explanation: in this range, the percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in price. Consumers are less responsive to price changes. Example: necessities like electricity. If the price of electricity rises, people will still consume it, but not drastically less. Elasticity, 0E1. Inelastic demand. Elasticity equal to 1 unitary elasticity. Explanation. When demand is unitary elastic, the percentage change in quantity demanded is exactly equal to the percentage change in price. This means the total expenditure, price, x quantity, stays constant. Example. If the price of a product increases by 10% and the quantity demanded decreases by 10%, the total revenue remains the same. Elasticity, E. 4. Elasticity greater than 1 but less than infinity, elastic demand. Explanation. When demand is elastic, the percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than the percentage change in price. Consumers are highly responsive to price changes. Example. Non-essential goods like luxury items. If the price rises, people will buy much less, S, and if the price falls, they will buy much more. Elastic demand. 5. Infinity elasticity, perfectly elastic demand. Explanation. Perfectly elastic demand means that the quantity demanded changes infinitely with even a tiny change in price. If the price changes by even a small amount, consumers will completely stop buying or buy an infinite amount. Example. Products in a perfectly competitive market, where identical products are sold at the same price. If one seller raises the price even slightly, they will lose all customers to competitors. Elasticity. E equaling key points to remember. 1. Perfectly inelastic demand. Demand. No change in demand despite price changes. 2. Inelastic demand. 0E1. Quantity demanded changes less than the price change. 3. Unitary elasticity, E equals 1, percentage change in price equals the percentage change in quantity demanded. 4. Elastic demand, quantity demanded changes more than the price change. 5. Perfectly elastic demand, equal N, even a tiny price change causes an infinite change in demand. By understanding these numerical measures, businesses can predict consumer behavior and adjust their pricing strategies accordingly. Factors determining price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand measures how much the quantity demanded of a product changes when its price changes. Several factors influence how elastic or inelastic the demand for a product is. Let's go through each one with simple explanations and examples. 1. Availability of substitutes. Explanation. If a product has many substitutes, demand will be more elastic because consumers can easily switch to another product when the price rises. If there are no close substitutes, demand will be inelastic. Example. Elastic demand. Coke and Pepsi. If the price of Coke increases, people will switch to Pepsi. Inelastic demand. Salt. There are no real substitutes, so people keep buying even if the price rises. Nashar 2. Position of a commodity in a consumer's budget. Explanation. If a product takes up a small portion of a consumer's income, demand is inelastic. Price changes don't affect buying behavior much. If a product takes up a large portion of income, demand is elastic. Inelastic demand. Salt, toothpaste, and matches. Since they cost very little, price changes don't affect demand. Elastic demand. Clothing and electronics. These take up more income, so consumers react more to price changes. Day 3. Nature of the need, luxury versus necessity. Explanation. Necessities, food, housing, have inelastic demand. People must buy them regardless of price. Luxuries, air conditioners, designer clothes, have elastic demand. People buy more when prices drop and less when prices rise. Example. Elastic demand, air conditioners not essential, so demand falls when prices rise. Inelastic demand, food people still need to eat even if prices go up. 4. Number of uses of a product. Explanation. If a product can be used for multiple purposes, demand is elastic because people can increase or decrease usage based on price. If it has limited uses, demand is inelastic. Example. Elastic demand, milk. If the price drops, people buy more to make curd, sweets, and butter. If the price rises, they use it only for essential needs. Inelastic demand. Salt, used only for cooking, so demand doesn't change much. 5. Possibility of postponing consumption. Explanation. If people can delay buying a product, demand is elastic. If they must buy immediately, demand is inelastic. Example, elastic demand, buying a new mobile phone. If prices are high, people can wait. Inelastic demand, medicine, people must buy it immediately, even if the price increases. X6 demand, explanation. If two goods are used together, the demand for one affects the demand for the other. Example, cars and fuel. If car prices fall and more people buy cars, fuel demand will increase. Consumer habits. Explanation. If people habitually buy a product, demand is inelastic because they won't easily switch brands or stop buying. A person addicted to a specific brand of cigarettes will continue buying it even if prices rise. Tied demand. Explanation. Some products must be bought together, making demand inelastic. Example, printer and ink cartridges. Even if cartridge prices rise, people must buy them to use their printers. 9. Price range of goods. Explanation. Expensive products, luxury cars, jewelry, inelastic demand because only wealthy people buy them. Mid-range products, clothes, electronics, elastic demand because middle-class consumers react more to price changes. 10. Brand loyalty. Explanation. People loyal to a brand will continue buying it even if prices rise, making demand inelastic. Example, if the price of Bajaj bikes rises, some consumers may still prefer Bajaj over Honda due to brand loyalty. 11. Distribution of income. If income is evenly distributed, demand tends to be more elastic because more people have similar purchasing power. Example, in a country with a strong middle class, demand for goods is more responsive to price changes. 12. Time period. Explanation. Short-term, demand is inelastic because consumers don't have time to adjust. Long-term, demand is elastic because consumers can find alternatives or adjust habits. Example, if petrol prices rise suddenly, people still buy petrol, inelastic in short term. Over time, people may switch to electric vehicles, elastic in long term. Key points to remember. 1. More substitutes, more elastic demand, Coke versus Pepsi. 2. Necessities, inelastic demand, food, medicine. 3. Luxuries equals elastic demand, jewelry, vacations. 4. Multiple uses equals elastic demand, milk, sugar. 5. Essential and urgent goods equals inelastic demand, salt, medicine. 6. Habitual goods equals inelastic demand, branded cigarettes. 7. Time matters. Short-term demand is inelastic, long-term demand is elastic. Understanding these factors helps businesses set prices and predict how consumers will react.